You may have seen the Black Lives Matter protests that are going on at the moment and the claim that the UK is racist and is somehow contributing to police brutality in the same way that it is alleged that American police are doing in the United States. This is sparked off by the case of George Floyd. I won't go through the backstory because I'm sure you're aware of it. It's everywhere. So the question is, are the police in the United Kingdom, particularly we'll go for England and Wales, racist, and do they disproportionately target black people? And the answer is no, not really. It appears that there's no particular problem with police brutality in the United Kingdom anyway, before we start breaking it down according to race. According to statistics provided by the BBC, in the past 10 years there have been 163 deaths in the United Kingdom. There are north of 66 million people in the United Kingdom. As a percentage of the population, that seems to imply that the police are actually not very dangerous in the United Kingdom, which should not be considered much of a surprise, considering we don't have widespread firearm use here and our police do not routinely carry guns. So I don't think there is a problem with police brutality against any race within the United Kingdom anyway. But the argument will be made that that police brutality that does exist in the United Kingdom, as small as it might be, still disproportionately affects black people. As the BBC's chart here shows, they, according to the 2011 census, made up 3% of the population, but 8% of the deaths in custody. Now, the number of deaths in custody in total for black people in the last 10 years has been 9. 9 people have died in custody. So that is less than 1 per year who have died. The statistics, in fact, actually make it look a lot worse for white people. As the BBC are forced to report here, so over the last 10 years, a white individual who's been arrested is about 25% more likely to die in police custody than a black individual who has been arrested. As far as I'm concerned, that should be the end of the conversation. It is not that in the United Kingdom that black people are more likely to be killed by the police than white people. At this point, the Black Lives Matter advocate would presumably pivot and say, well, black people are more likely to be arrested in the United Kingdom. They make up 10% of the arrests and only 3% of the population, roughly speaking, and therefore this is disproportionate representation and proof that the police are in fact institutionally racist. And I think that if we go through the statistics, that is simply not borne out. It seems to be that it's behaviour that comes from the black community in the United Kingdom that is warranting the arrest rate. The prosecution data that the government has for prosecutions and convictions in the United Kingdom shows that there doesn't seem to be a systemic bias against black or minority ethnic people in this regard. In 2017, the conviction ratios for black and mixed ethnic groups were the lowest at 78.7% and 79% respectively, and in 2017, the conviction ratio was highest for defendants in the white ethnic group at 85.3%. So if you appear before a judge, you are more likely to be convicted if you are white than if you are non-white. That is simply the case across the board. I'm no statistical expert, but if you look across the ethnic groups, they're roughly around the 80% mark, all of them. So it seems to be that the criminal justice system is acting in a fairly neutral way, presumably the way it's meant to function, not explicitly demonstrating any kind of overt or covert racial bias against any particular group. We can look at the government's own data on the ethnic breakdown of people who are currently in the criminal justice system by each ethnic group from 2018. As you can see by the figures in this criminal justice system, the numbers marked out in teal are the black population of Britain, which roughly 3.5%, and they are overrepresented generally in the criminal justice system. What I find notable here, though, is that black people are 13% of the prison population, but 22% of the people who are stopped and searched. Again, according to government data, in Britain, black people are arrested at a rate of 35 per 1,000 by ethnicity, whereas white people are arrested at 10 per 1,000. And so, again, the Black Lives Matter advocate would probably say, well, these two statistics are proof that black people are being persecuted because of their race in Britain. I don't think that's true. I think that this is a function primarily of London, because London's demography is not the same as the rest of the United Kingdom. This is from the 2011 census, and as you can see, the white British make up 44%, the Asian or Asian British make up 18%, and black or black British make up 13%. It appears to have problems of its own that simply aren't replicated widely amongst the wider white population of Britain. It turns out that in the United Kingdom, 38% of knife possession offenders, for example, under 25, were non-white in 2017. However, in London, that rises to 2/3 of the arrests for knife offences under 25s come from black and minority ethnic populations, whereas, at least according to the 2011 census, they make up just over 1/3 of London's population. And it seems that stop and search is being used primarily on these populations because of problems that they have within their own community. In fact, London uses stop and search far more than anywhere else in the United Kingdom. Overall, in the United Kingdom, there were 7 stop and searches for every 1,000 people, which is a falling rate anyway. But in London, there were 22 stop and searches for every 1,000 people. And of course, the majority of those people were black and minority ethnic. The reason that stop and search is going on so much in London is because London has been experiencing a record knife crime epidemic. As you might remember, in 2019, as reported by the Evening Standard, figures showed that knife crime in London was happening at more than twice the rate elsewhere in the country, with 174 offences per 100,000 residents in the capital, compared to 81 offences per 100,000 elsewhere. 15,500 knife crimes, not including possession offences, were recorded in London, which is 42 a day. It is widely understood that this is being done by young offenders, young ethnic minorities in these communities, primarily in London, but also in places like Manchester and Birmingham. This is reflected in the crime statistics if we break them down by age and ethnicity. As you can see from the under 18s bar at the very bottom, 29% of them are black, whereas 49% are white, with roughly even proportion in the Asian community going through the ages. As you can see, the percentage age bracket for black people in prison drops dramatically, so it appears to be that it is somehow tied to something that has happened to the young people in London in, say, the last 20 or so years. And again, according to the government's own statistics, it turns out that London has the highest proportion of lone parent families in the UK in 2019, 86% of which are, of course, single mothers. And according to the 2011 census, 18.9% of black households were made up of a single parent with dependent children, the highest percentage out of all ethnic groups for this type of household. This seems to be the root of the disproportionate need for policing of black communities, which we have seen with the knife crime epidemic, because it appears to be a consequence of fatherlessness in these communities, as people like David Lammy have pointed out, and as I have mentioned over and over and over. As far as I'm concerned, the data does not show that black people are disproportionately or unfairly targeted by the police because of their race. It appears to be because of crime that occurs in that community from fatherless young men. It doesn't appear that Britain has a problem with police brutality at all. It is not America. We cannot import America's problems and expect them to map onto our own. Black Lives Matter in Britain has no case against police brutality. However, it does have a case for its own internal problems, and I do believe that these seriously need to be addressed. Thanks for watching, folks. As my channel has been demonetized, I have to let you know that we have a Spreadshirt store that I'll leave linked in the description. If you would like to support us, you can check it out. And Johnny has made a new t-shirt in light of everything that's been going on, and I think he might be some kind of maestro. This is absolute genius. I think Callum actually did the original design, but Johnny's put it up for the shirts, and it's amazing. It is exactly what I want them to realise, what I want people to realise. Is, look, if you vote for left-wing parties that encourage the dissolution of the family, the dependence on the welfare state, essentially the abolition of fathers from homes because of their toxic masculinity, removing structure and order and leadership from young men, then this is what you get. You get riots under the banner of left-wing parties and left-wing ideology. This shirt, to me, towards a leftist, is a punch in the face. You did this. Left-wing policies did this. Calling our countries racist did this, when what we were trying to do is solve the problems that were coming out of their communities. That's all anyone wants, is for these problems to stop, for the murders to stop, for the violence to stop. And until we can have an honest conversation about that, I guess people can just keep electing more Democrats, can't they?